The price is sitting at key areas of the daily range we use, which is the weekly daily range, across multiple pairs with clear liquidity resting on both sides. So the focus now is, where is price drawing to? First, we're looking at our USTEC, which we can see the weekly chart on the USTEC. We are using the high of this range, which is the 26,220, and the low of this range, which is the 23,827 level. Within this range, the question is, where is price? Apparently, price is at the discount level, still respecting the fair value gap on the monthly time frame, discount level of this range. The next is, where is price likely to be drawn to? Remember, we are not trying to predict price. We are just mapping out liquidity, giving narrative towards what we've seen on the chart. So if we drop into the daily time frame, which is here, our focus is within this range on the daily time frame. Where is price? Price is also sitting at the discount level of that range. Took out liquidity as at last week, which we also can be seen on the weekly. It took out liquidity, the external range liquidity, as at last week. Will price be drawn to DIX? This is a gap on the weekly. If we can expand it, you will see there is a gap over there. So the question is, what's our narrative? Let's go back to the daily time frame and start looking for our draw on liquidity. So here, after the price filled the monthly fair value gap the second time, took out the external liquidity of the weekly, we are now looking at which side of the market do we expect price to be drawn to. First, our first draw on liquidity is on the daily time frame, which is a fair value gap here. Let's expand also and see that clearly. If you don't watch your charts, you might not see some of the things. We can see there is a gap here. So that's our first draw on liquidity on the daily time frame on the Nasdaq, which apparently we can say is the 24,500 level, this area. So if price continue to go up, where is our next draw on liquidity? We're expecting price to get to this other block on the 24,637 levels before it could get to this level, which is the 24,754 levels of this area. Those are the area we are looking at for Nasdaq for price to draw to. But if price then fails to get to that particular point, that means the next draw will be looking at this particular area for price to respect this particular area. These are the key levels price may target if bullishness continues for Nasdaq. First, we are looking at the fair value gap on the 24,500 level before the order block, and then the next is the weekly order block, which is the 24,754 for Nasdaq. If those areas fail, expect price to be drawn to DIX. Those are the area we're looking at on Nasdaq. The next pair we're going to be looking at will be our British Pound USD. So on the British Pound USD, as we can see, we are starting also from the weekly time frame. Here, British Pound USD, what is our daily range? Which area are we looking at price to be drawn to? What our expectation? Our focus will be on this daily range, the 1.37340 levels. This can be used also, but let's focus on this. And then the lows will be the 1.3219 levels. Within this range, where is price? Price is apparently at a discount level, also respecting the fair value gap on the monthly. Let's take a look at the monthly and see what happened. You can see the price is still respecting the monthly fair value gap, but the month has not ended yet. Will price continue to go down, or will price respect this fair value gap? So we draw back on our daily and our weekly time frame. As our last take, this is what we had. Price refused to break low below this particular candle, acting as a rejection block. So if we drop on the daily time frame, the same happened till within the fair value gap of the monthly. This is what we had. Price refused to break below this Friday low, acting as a rejection block. And price seems to mitigate, acting as a mitigation block broken out of this particular level. So where is our draw on liquidity on the daily time frame? So on the daily time frame, one of the first thing we want to see as our draw on liquidity is price to go a bit higher. The first draw on liquidity, we are looking at price to take out this high, which is the 1.3467 level. It's an internal range. Then the next will be this particular order block on the daily, which is the 1.3487 level. And then the next could be this fair value gap, which is a weekly fair value gap, which is between the 1.373574 levels. Those are the areas we are watching out for draw on liquidity on British pound USD. So for British pound USD, this level defines the bullish objective. So our eyes are on this particular level first on the daily time frame. We're expecting this high to be taken, then the next on the order block before price will get to the weekly fair value gap on this area. So we keep our eyes on this area on British pound USD as our draw on liquidity. The next pair we're going to be looking at will be the Euro USD. Also starting from the weekly time frame, let's give our narrative on what we're expecting on Euro USD on this particular level. So our daily range first will be within this particular range. We are looking at this high, the 1.1928, and this low, the 1.1413. So within this range on Euro USD, where is price apparently? We can also see clearly price is sitting at the discount level of those range. So what is price likely to draw to? We draw back on our daily time frame as our last week price also refused to break below this particular low, respecting this candle as it was acting like a rejection block. And then this is what we had. This particular zone, where is it? Going to the monthly time frame, we can see price took out liquidity. Will price continue to go down, or will price respect this external liquidity of the monthly? That's what we'll find out. So back to the daily time frame. So as price get back to the monthly time frame liquidity, which was taken already, and price acted this way, where is next our draw on liquidity? The first draw on liquidity for us on the Euro USD will be the high on the daily time frame, which is the 1668. And then we want to see price feel all this inefficiency before getting back to this weekly order block, which is the 1.1780 level. These are the areas we are expecting price to get to for us on Euro USD. This price, that's our narrative on Euro USD this week. These are the key upside targets to monitor for Euro USD. If that fails, that means price will continue to go down. But our draw on liquidity for liquidity narrative remains the upside. The highs, the daily highs, the weekly order block. We keep our eyes on that. That being said, we are moving to our next pair, which is the USD, okay, JPY, British pound JPY, starting also from the weekly time frame. We are Where is our range we are using for this? We are looking at this range, the high, which is the 214.98, and the low, which is the 207.27 levels. Within this range, where is price relative? Using this range, we can see price is apparently on the premium zone of this particular range. What is price likely to be drawn to? We are dropping on the daily time frame to start looking on what our narrative is using the weekly time frame information. We are not predicting price, we are just mapping out liquidity using what we've seen on the chart. So on the daily time frame, we said our first draw on liquidity remains the daily high, which is the 213.30 level. After that, we are looking at price drawing to the weekly high. If price continue to go up, the next place is going to be going is a 214.47 levels. So we keep watching this level and see what happens there. However, price may react from the other block, which is here. Price may actually return back to this other block, which is here. So reacting from the other block at the 211.68, which is a key reaction level for British pound JPY. So we watch and see what happens here. If price opens and continue to go up, our draw on liquidity remain on the upside here. If price opens, keep your eyes on the other block at the 211.68. If it continues to go down, we'll see what the reaction will be at this particular level on British pound JPY to see the reaction it will give here. If it continues to go up, then focus on this particular level as our draw on liquidity. We are moving next to our last pair for the week, which will be the USDJPY, starting also from the weekly time frame. So what range are we using on the weekly time frame? We can see this was supposed to be our range, the 159.40 levels and this 152.3 levels, and price took out that external high as at last week, and this is what price did as at last week. The question is, where is our draw on liquidity and where is price using this range? We can see within this range, price is apparently on the premier zone of the range, and external liquidity has been taken on this range. What will be next for the price? If we drop on the daily time frame, I was expecting price as at last week to at least drop into this fair value gap, which is a fair value gap on the weekly time frame, but price was unable to at the moment as at last week. So where our draw on liquidity, what are we looking at? For the USTEC, our draw on liquidity will be a bit lower. We want to see price getting into these lows, the 1.57.49 levels. If it continues to go down, I want to see price respecting this fair value gap, the 157.00. Sorry, this is 157.49 levels first, and then this fair value gap on the weekly, which is the 157 levels. Those are the area I'm expecting price to react to on USDJPY if price decided to come back low. I'm expecting a low draw on the USDJPY, at least for price to respect these zones and respect this fair value gap of the weekly. Those are the areas my eyes are on this week. So what are we saying? Across the board, the narrative remained consistent. The focus is on where liquidity sits and how price reacts to those levels. This level, whichever level that gets traded first, will define the narrative for the week. Remember, we will review what happens at this price, if price actually respect these levels or not, in our Friday accountability review. It is always structure over speculation. Thank you.